everyone, it's Teresa Green from Slow Paths Wellness, and it's Mindful Monday. Today I want to talk about something called receiving. And I know that's kind of a generic kind of word, but I'm using it in a very specific sense, and it's for a mindfulness practice that deals with allowing yourself to accept good things. Now, that can be just something like allowing yourself to receive help from someone, or to receive the right amount of payment, being able to advocate for yourself for what you are worth, whether that's payment or whether that's respect or any kind of treatment. And those are also very, very important and are part of mindfulness. But for today's Mindfulness Monday, I wanted to do something a little bit, not necessarily smaller, but very, very specific. This is going to be kind of like a gratitude practice, but not exactly, because there's a slight difference between being grateful for something and allowing yourself to receive it. Now, the background to this particular Mindful Monday is, like a lot of my Mindful Mondays, something to do with my walks. I take a walk every morning in a neighborhood that's very pleasant. It's got shade and it has trees and there's birds singing, and it's just a really, really nice place. And a couple years ago at least, I began the process of really enjoying that time. I used to take my walks and I'd have a podcast in, or I'd be making a phone call. I'd be doing something at least a little bit productive while I was doing my walk. Productive in quotation marks there. And so I felt like, okay, I'm not wasting my time by going on a walk. Well, after I had my cancer diagnosis, I started doing even more mindfulness because it helped me to deal with chemo and anxiety and some of the things that for most people come up when they have a major life-threatening diagnosis in their life. And I decided that mindfulness was very important, and they call it embodiment, getting in my body and really feeling what's going on instead of hiding out here in my brain, which oftentimes it's felt like a way of distracting myself from what I was feeling, but it was actually a way to distract myself from what I was afraid I would feel. So what would happen is my brain would be racing through all these scenarios and the anxiety would come up, but I would distract myself with a podcast or scrolling through Facebook or whatever. But all that did is it just kind of made me keep needing to distract myself, because then I would stop and my little worrying brain just would whir, and come right back to what if this and what if that, and if this happens, how will I handle it, and blah, blah, blah. So with mindfulness, what you do is when you notice something like that, when you notice those worrying brain thoughts, when you notice the fearful what ifs going on, instead of pursuing it, is as soon as you realize you're in that, you stop. And instead of allowing your thoughts to keep jumping into that kind of cognitive what if thing that is tied up in anxiety and becomes sometimes completely irrational, to be perfectly honest, you stop and you go, okay, I notice I'm anxious, and with that anxiety, I'm feeling muscle tension, or I'm clenching my teeth, or I'm noticing that my thoughts are racing from one thing to another very quickly. And so you try to get into your body and just feel what you're feeling instead of trying to think your way through it. So when I was doing my walks, I tried to do that more. So instead of trying to think through scenarios of what things I would do, I would walk and try to notice, oh, this is what a cool breeze feels like on my face. This is what it sounds like to hear birds singing. Oh, look, that's a cardinal making that particular sound. Boy, squirrels are funny. It's nice to watch the squirrel do his little jumping around. And when I see him, I notice in my own body, I notice a kind of uplifting of happiness. I notice the way my muscles feel when I go up an incline. All the different things I was trying to really focus on, being mindful of what was going on in my mind, in my heart, in my body as I was walking. And as I did that over time, it became easier to relax. I noticed I had fewer anxious thoughts, and I just enjoyed the walk more. So at some point I got to the idea of, wow, I'm spending a lot of time walking. I need to do something productive. And so I very quickly gave that up and decided I'm going to just enjoy this and enjoy this time. Now, I found that unusually difficult. It was very hard for me to think I can just walk and enjoy it. And that's okay. That's not only okay, that's important. It's an important part of my health strategy for my life. And overcoming the resistance to that was very important to me. So it's also very exciting to start thinking, I can actually just enjoy things. I don't have to have everything be productive, or everything generate income, or everything get something off of a to-do list. I can just enjoy the fact that I'm outside and the breeze is blowing, or I'm eating something I really enjoy when it's not a walking exercise or something like that. And so I become very excited about that, and I wanted to share it. So then I would find myself on my walks trying to enjoy the things that I was doing, and I would find myself, instead of really focusing on them and enjoying them, not thankfully worrying anymore, but trying to put together something like this Mindful Monday, thinking, how will I word it? What's the best way to do that? When I'm talking to patients, what's the best way to express my excitement about them being here and how much I want to help them? And those were very good things, but I didn't want them to be happening in my mindfulness time. So I came around to the idea of receiving. I consider my walk to be a blessing. I consider the enjoyment I get from it, the beauty I see, the wonderful things I hear, the way I feel when the sun's shining or the breeze is blowing, or I pass people that I've come to recognize over time because I'm walking every day and I'm seeing them every day, and we say hello to each other, the pleasantness of that. I'm trying to really focus on that. And it suddenly dawned on me that that's more than just gratitude. Gratitude kind of came from that enjoyment. It's also more than just enjoyment, because I found I was actually having a hard time doing that. And finally the word came to me. It's receiving the enjoyment. It's recognizing that it's there and allowing yourself to receive it. And that was a really big deal to me. So for today's mindfulness practice, I want you to find something you enjoy, or for the moment right now, just imagine something you enjoy. It can be holding a baby, playing with a kitten, eating popcorn, going for a walk, feeling how your muscles move if you've been working out and you can tell you're stronger than you were, reading a poem in the way that you feel inside when the beautiful words are there for you. When you see someone across the room and you both have a little shared moment, whether it's someone close to you or just your two people in line, recognizing, hey, this is kind of tough, but hi, I noticed that you're trying to be calm as well. Any of those things. And imagine how that feels. Imagine the calm of it. Imagine if it's something you really, really can have a real visceral sense of. Imagine your shoulders coming down, or the way it feels when something's on your taste buds and it's really wonderful. I know for me, one of the things I like to picture in my head is when I was in college, I got to go to a lot of concerts. There was a nice concert hall on the campus where I went to school, and you could go to concerts for free. And so I would sit, and I can remember sitting and looking down in the audience and looking at the performers and kind of feeling that anticipation of what was about to happen. A lot of times they were classical concerts. You would hear the instruments tuning up together and trying to kind of get their feel for how they were going to work together, and just sort of feeling that, knowing something really wonderful was about to happen. And then when the music started, just in remembering how that felt, how the sound came to my ears, and you kind of felt a little bit of at least I felt a little bit of a lifting in my head, and just sort of an upwelling when the music would get louder, and then settling down when the music would get calmer. And it was so wonderful. And now I can take myself back to that and really embody that, because before I didn't know how to quite as well. But thankfully I have enough of the memory of it that I can feel that. I can feel the way that sometimes if the music is going from slow to fast or has this particular rhythm, it almost feels like it helps things shift inside of me in a way that's really healthy and really life-giving and really enjoying. And I can then allow myself to just receive that enjoyment, to picture it coming to me, picture myself enjoying it and just allowing it to happen, allowing that to come to me, to benefit me, to feel it and to enjoy it. Now, I bet that there are a few people out there that like my own conditioning and my own messages that I got from people, kind of feel a little twitch about that. That sounds kind of selfish, doesn't it? Well, it's not. Because that's self-care, and self-care is very important before you can move to something that's unselfish and giving, because it's very hard to give something that you don't have. And one of the things that in this kind of thinking this through, it reminded me of a concept in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, one of the many different things that we have as far as dealing with diagnostics and understanding what's going on in a person's body and how all the different systems interact with each other is the idea of deficiency and excess. So the idea of deficiency is that you don't have enough of something you need, nutrition or calm or sleep or moisture, and that the way to fix problems where the cause is deficiency is to add something to the mix. What it is depends on the diagnosis. We also have something called excess. That's when there's too much of something. So sometimes that can be like stuck energy, so that ends up being like frustration or pain. We consider to be different things stuck. Sometimes it can just be food. We have a diagnosis called food stagnation. So a lot of times those kind of bloating and bad feelings, sometimes they're related to food stagnation. Well, very, very, very frequently, any of those diagnostics are not one or the other. They're both, with one kind of being a little bit more than the other. And one of our formulas that most people who have done anything with Chinese medicine, especially herbs, they will eventually come across this formula. It's called Xiaosan, and it is ostensibly for primarily excess conditions. It's for things where you have pain, or you have moodiness, or you have like tension. It's a lot of times for people who are very stressed, they'll use it for tension. And in sort of shorthand in Chinese medicine, we talk of it as a formula for qi stagnation. But that's not 100% accurate. It's actually a different formula for qi stagnation that is much more aimed at specifically excess, less than deficiency. Xiaosan is for qi stagnation with blood deficiency. And the idea with that is that you can have something that you have too much of that's stuck, but you can't move it because you don't have enough of something underneath it. And so until you're able to kind of do both at the same time, move a little bit and give a little bit, the things will stay stuck. If you just add more stuff to it without any movement, then the tension part will usually get bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's kind of blocking your ability to feed the deficiency. And if you just try to move stuff, then it'll just kind of come up again because the deficiency is still there. So if we go take that into the idea of receiving, if you're feeling like receiving is selfish and you just want to do and keep giving and giving and giving, well, that's kind of like, it's a similar concept to that excess idea. You're trying to do something without the underlying support that you need to be able to do it. And so what you'll find is that giving, one, it'll be exhausting, but two, it won't ever really have the same kind of joy that comes from giving from a full cup. And so being able to give and just feel like you're giving from your own abundance, and that you're giving because it's wonderful to give to people, not because you're supposed to or you have to or good people do it, but because your heart is full and you want to share that with somebody. That comes from receiving. And I can tell you from my own personal experience over building this over the past 2 years, building my sense of boundaries, my sense of giving, my sense of enjoyment, my sense of receiving, that I have such a different approach to giving than I used to. I didn't know it at the time, but I used to give because I felt guilty. I felt guilty because I had things, or I felt guilty because someone was suffering. And it was good-hearted. I wanted people who needed things to have what they needed. But it was never done in a way that I could sustain it. I was giving, but I was giving from something I didn't have myself, and so it was exhausting. And so I couldn't do the things for people I wanted to do for them because it took too much energy. Now I'm giving, but I'm giving a completely different way. I take care of myself. I give myself what I need. I receive the things that come to me. I receive the beauty in the world. I receive help. I receive support. I really try to relax into receiving things. And the natural response of that, the natural consequence of that is I feel filled up, and then I want to give to someone else. So in my practice now, I'm trying to do things like these videos. I'm trying to do classes, put classes together so that people who for whatever reason can't afford or don't have time or are not able to do some of the things that I do for a fee, they can still receive some of the benefits of the things that I have to give. And it feels so good to do that. Whereas before, it felt like I was doing it more or less as a marketing thing, or because I felt guilty that I charged money for things that I did, or something equally unhealthy, to be honest. So today, I want you to think about receiving. So let's do a real quick mindfulness exercise with that. Go ahead and sit comfortably or stand, lay down, however you want to do that. And close your eyes. And while your eyes are closed, picture yourself enjoying something, receiving something that you need, anything where there's something coming to you and you need to be able to accept it, let it kind of sink into your soul and your body that you're receiving this thing and feeling that goodness from it. And I know for some people that's hard because receiving, there's actually a vulnerability to receiving. Even if you're just receiving the sound of birds, there is a vulnerability to that. But just allow yourself to feel that. So for the sake of example, let's use my walking example. Let's say you want to receive the comfort of a cool breeze. So feel that breeze coming to you and let yourself notice how relaxing it is, how refreshing it is, how comforting it is, whatever word you would use to describe it. And just consciously tell yourself, I am receiving this pleasant breeze. And see what you feel when you do that. I feel a coolness and a calmness kind of come down my spine. And I feel sort of a settled feeling down in my lower abdomen. And I just kind of feel a desire to smile a little bit. See what you feel about that. And think about receiving. Think about the goodness of it. And allow yourself to do that. Another tiny point is that when you allow yourself to receive, you're better able to understand how to give to someone else. Because when you are comfortable with the idea of receiving, then you're able to empathize with someone else's receiving, and you can think, now what is it, let's see, if I receive something good, what is it that I feel, and how can I help someone else feel that? So if there's something that's uncomfortable, if there's someone that needs something and you're afraid it's going to be uncomfortable to give something to them, but for whatever reason you feel like it's a healthy, good thing to give that to them, then you will be bringing, because you know what it feels like to healthfully receive, you'll be bringing that energy into the conversation. So when you say, here is money to help you out with your rent, or here are some zucchini that I picked this morning, or whatever it is, you can say, I really want you to be able to enjoy this. And you can say it in a way that they can feel more comfortable about receiving. But if you're not comfortable with receiving, it will probably be hard for you to make it comfortable for someone else. So there's our Mindful Monday for today. Let's practice receiving. Let's practice receiving with joy and with relaxation. And if you have any questions or if you have any comments you want to put up, go go ahead and do that here on the YouTube video, or you can contact me directly. The website is slowpathswellness.com, and there'll be a link for it there. You can go to the Contact Me and connect with me. And if you enjoy what you're hearing, please click like on there and hit subscribe so that you can get my videos as they come out each week. Thank you so much for listening, and have yourself a wonderful Monday.